Hey, I'm Kaj-Erik Eriksen, and you're listening to Chris Gordon on Hellblazer.biz.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, listeners, wherever you are in the world right now. Hellblazer.biz is proud to present and bring to you another interview today, courtesy of PPMG. Today's guest has been seen in many TV shows and films over the years. He was known as Kerry Malone in Beggars and Choosers. He was known Jeremy Peters in Boston Public, but more recently to sci-fi fans as Danny Farrell in the 4400. So without further ado, I bring to you the excellent Mr. Kaj-Erik Eriksen. Hi Kai, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
I'm good, thank you. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much for your time.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Cool. So as you know, I've got some questions here for you, which we'll just fire through.
All right.
Been sent in from various people and also myself, just to get to know you a bit better and
Sure.
yeah, and see what you're about and what you've got going on at the moment.
All right, that sounds good.
So, how long have you been an actor? I mean, I've seen it's. You said somewhere you started when you were 6 years old. So
Yeah, I sort of stumbled into it when I was around 6, and I've been doing it for about 30 years, 31 years now. Yeah.
cool. So, what kind of inspired you? What drew you to want to be an actor in the first place?
Well, my mom put me in modeling when I was really young, like for local catalogs and flyers and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And it was okay. I mean, I was so young at the time. I barely remember much of it. But I remember going to this horrible fashion show that we did, and all the kids were so unhappy to be there, and their stage moms were just horrible. And my mom and I were sitting back watching this, and I wasn't really into it. I wasn't digging it. And I remember, her saying, "Do you even enjoy doing this?" I was like, "No, not really." And so she kind of went, "Okay, well, we should go in and tell your agent that you're not interested in doing this." And so we went in to go see him. And he just had sort of suggested and threw it out there, like, "You ever thought about trying acting?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. That sounds sort of interesting. Like, that could be fun." He's like, "Why don't you give it a try? You think you might like it. Might be good at it. You might have a fun time." Okay. And back when I started, you had to sort of work your way up, like in any other job. You started out as like an extra. I gave you like your on-set experience, and you kind of learned, how things work on set. And then, you'd get a little line here and there. And then you get a little co-star role, and then you get a guest star role, and you build and build and build. And so I started out doing a few extra things, and then getting a few small roles here and there. And it was always fun to like be on set. And I realized at a really young age, like I get to like miss school and hang out with adults all day. And like I'm making money. This is awesome. And so it just sort of became like this fun thing for me as a kid that I enjoyed doing. And it wasn't until into my teens, when I really started understanding how like acting worked and how, working with other actors and how listening was just as important as, saying your lines. Because when I was young and, you're a kid, you can get away with just sort of being a cute kid and sort of doing your thing. But, there's a lot of just sort of standing there like really stiff, just waiting to say your line. You're just like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you say your line and then you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And it wasn't until I hit my teens and I sort of really understood like working a scene and listening and working with fellow actors. So it's been fun. Yeah.
Excellent. Did you have any inspirations of when you were younger in the acting world, or anyone you've sort of aspired or inspired you to carry on?
Well, working on the commish was a really unique experience because I was about 10 when we started that show, and I grew up on the show. So, it was an important part of my life and went through a lot, so much so the show kind of started writing stuff into the show that was happening to me as a young teen in real life because they were drawing on my real experiences and stuff. And I learned so much from Michael and Teresa. And Michael was like a big brother / second dad. And we had so many like iconic actors cycle through that show over the years. So you learn a lot from that, and then when you're that young, you don't really know who Telly Savalas is because you're a kid.
Yeah.
you know. But then when your parents are like, "Oh my God, Telly Savalas is doing the show. Do you know who that is?" And you're like, I don't know." And they're like, well, "Okay, hold on." And they start to explain to you, and then familiarize you with his work, and then you start to see his work, and then you realize, oh my God, you get on set and you meet these people, and they're iconic, and you learn a lot from watching and sort of listening. So that was always very inspiring. And then Michael was a great role model. I mean, he was quite inspiring to kind of keep me on the right track and smarten me up.
Excellent, excellent. Did Telly Savalas have a lollipop?
No, and it was one of those things where like everyone's like, don't joke about the lollipop. But it was funny because we had Wilt Chamberlain on the show, and that was awesome because I knew who Wilt Chamberlain was, and so that was super exciting because I liked basketball when I was a kid, and I mean it was Wilt Chamberlain, and we even played a game of horse, and I almost beat him. I think he probably let me win, but that was pretty awesome. But the crew all day was like, Kai, they're like, I was like 11 years old or something. They're like, Kai, they're like, go up and ask him how many women he's really slept with. Go up and ask him. Go up and ask him. And no one thought I would actually do it. So I was like 11 years old. So we're sitting down at lunch, and I go over and I sort of put my arm around Wilt, and I'm like, hey Wilt, I'm like, so how many women have you really slept with? 11 years old. And he looks at me and he sort of chuckles and he puts his arm back around me. He goes, you know what, Kai? We'll talk about that when you're older. All right.
Nice.
And then he used to send me birthday cards.
That's pretty cool.
Every year for my birthday. Yeah, it was amazing. So neat experiences like that. I've been lucky to have a lot of cool experiences growing up in the business. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. What's been your most favourite role so far? It's probably a hard question for you because
that's the question I always dread because it's the most common question that I get, and it's just so hard. Like you take away something different from every show, and whether it's because it's just the character you're playing, or whether it's because you had such a great experience with like the cast and the crew, or whether it's a combination of both. Every show is different, and you can be on a show that has some actors who are less than great to work with, experience wise, but yet the character is fantastic. So that makes it. It's hard. It's like every show is different. I loved Boston Public. I loved Boston Public because like David E. Kelly is just a bloody genius, and the way he writes, there was something about the way he writes and the dialogue. It just always clicked, and there was always it just worked, and it was interesting. It was an interesting character for me. I enjoyed it because it had quite a few twists. I mean, I normally if I get cast for something, it's it's for one specific character, and I don't always have like a huge arc. But with Boston Public, there was quite a bit of an arc over the couple seasons I was on the show, and the character changed quite drastically. So that was probably one of the more interesting ones, and the writing was phenomenal. So that's pretty high up there, I'd say. But then shows like 4400. I mean, I've never been on a show like 4400 where the cast and the crew is so close, and still to this day, like that's the one show where we literally have all kept in touch, and on a regular basis we see each other, or we talk to each other, because a lot of times you fall out. I mean, just because people they get busy or you go your separate ways. It's not due to anything other than people are busy, and but that's the one show where it was so incredibly tight knit, and so that was a really wonderful experience. And I don't think I've spent as much time on a show outside of work hanging out with people. Like Jacqueline McKenzie would always organize something every weekend for us, some sort of activity, and so it would always involve going out for dinner, or we'd screen an episode of the show, or and we would always take the director for the next episode out to dinner, the weekend before. So things like that really sort of make a difference and create a nice experience.
Cool. You weren't buttering the director up, were you, to change his mind in case his storyline change a bit?
No, because I mean, and whether we knew them or not, whether it was a director that was returning to the show or whether it was a new one, I think it's like a fantastic way to kind of welcome someone in and get to know them a little bit before you work with them. Otherwise,
definitely.
Slammed into to working with them the first day you get to set to do your stuff, So I think it's a really smart thing to do, actually, to get everyone kind of on the same page and get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely, totally agree. I think it's very rare as well because people I speak to, that's that same question. It throws everyone. But I don't think there are many shows which you can do that close knit and you obviously stay together. I mean, I
yeah.
came together originally last year. This whole thing started in support of Constantine on NBC.
Hmm.
If you ever saw that, and the people I spoke to on there, that's the close knit community they have. They're still together, and there's such a friendship as well. I mean, I
Yeah.
spoke with TJ Scott last October,
Hmm.
possibly. TJ, and he's a great guy, but
Yeah.
he was telling me, and this is because I was like, obviously talking, but he was on, I think it was the red carpet for his film Death Valley at the time.
Yeah.
But he said Angelica Saleya, who was in Constantine, who I'd spoken to, was talking because I'd asked TJ to come on, and Angelica was there, and she was like, "Yeah, Chris is lovely, blah, go on the show." And because they were still mingling together as friends and stuff, and
Yeah.
that friendship circle afterwards. And I think it is lovely to see
Yeah.
when you do have a show like that. You as casting actors, you forge a friendship that's going to last throughout the time as well. And it's just nice to see that. And also, even now, those guys are still very, very close, and have got a lot of love for each other.
Yeah, it's nice to see. And TJ, he's a good guy. I've only met him once, and it's ridiculous because I've never worked with him. But we have so many mutual friends, so I feel like everyone I know has worked with TJ but me. And at this point, I'm determined to. But for that very reason, like he's just a good guy, and he does good work, and he works on some great shows.
He's got some fantastic. He's got such a. I said this to Mike last night because he's such a fantastic and unique vision on how he sees things and how he puts things across, and you can pretty much always tell when he's been in charge of directing something. It's just it's really good. So,
and at this point in my career, like these are the kind of guys that I want to work with.
Yeah,
you want to work with people who are really good at what they do, but they're good people, and they're nice to work with. They're easy to work with. That's the sort of goal and the key at this point. I mean, I've had mostly great experiences in this business, but every so often you work with people that are, you don't have the greatest time on set, and then as you get older and as you do this longer, you kind of go, I don't need it. I just want to work with good people on good shows and try and do good work, So TJ and I, we got a lot of mutual friends, and I've met the guy once, but yeah, there's it makes a huge difference too when you're on a show and you have that camaraderie.
yeah,
And usually, you'll have one bad apple in a cast, like one person who's kind of the odd person out. And I've been very lucky, like on 4400 and a lot of these other shows, like we've been really lucky to have just a good, solid group of people.
yeah.
And I just think it creates a better product. I really think that when a cast gets along really well and they've got great directors that know the cast, know the show, and who they get along really well with, it just makes for a better product all around.
It does.
When you're excited to be there, and when it's great material, and when everyone's kind of in that zone, and everyone's just in a good mood, and they're happy, and it's like you feel excited to be making. And when you're a fan of the show too, that's the other thing that makes it. It's like, being on Beggars and Choosers and 4400 were two of the shows that you're just such a, the cast was such a fan of the show themselves that you're like clamoring to get the next script because you want to know what happens, and you're just waiting for the next script to come out, and as soon as you grab it, you run off and you're like flipping through it and reading it because you want to know what happens next. You want to see where it's going. You're almost as much of a fan of the show as the people watching it. And again, it makes a big difference when you're filming it. So
Well, yeah, definitely. And I think it does portray as well. Definitely when you can see. I think, like you say, the whole end product. You can see where there's that camaraderie, and where you've got that the chemistry between everybody. It's actually a question I was going to ask later on, but it fits kind of in now as well because I know you've recently been on NCIS LA. You've done an episode of there. It's one of my favourite shows at the moment as well, I've got to say. But to me, I mean, you've been on it, so you can tell me: is that chemistry there behind the set as well, behind the cameras? Is that their friendliness and the camaraderie that they have? Because that comes out on screen, that they just seem to get on and bond so well together anyway.
Yeah, I had a wonderful experience on NCIS LA. I was actually really, really happy to do the show
Hmm.
uh, because John Kazakis, who's one of the executive producers on the show, he
Yeah.
was a producer way back on the commish. So I grew up with John,
Hmm.
and he's a great guy, and so it was great to work with him again. Um, and the director James Hanlon, fantastic guy, and he's done a bunch of their episodes, so
Yeah.
he knows how it works.
Hmm.
Um, and you step onto a show like that, and it's, and I did season 7. So at that point, it's a real well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
They all know what they're doing. But the nice thing about NCIS LA is it's one of those shows that's really, really welcoming.
Hmm.
The hardest thing as an actor, when you're just guest starring, when it's not your show, and you step on, it goes one of two ways. Either
Yeah.
it's a really friendly cast that's really welcoming, or they
Hmm.
know, like, you're just here for a couple days or for the week, and then you're gone, and we're never going to see you again. And they cycle through so many people
Yeah.
that sometimes they're less than friendly or less than welcoming because they know that you're going to be gone in a week, and then
Hmm.
in come the new people, and then they're
Yeah.
so. NCIS LA was really, really welcoming, really great. The cast was super friendly. Um, we did a cast read through for the episode
Hmm.
before we shot, and most shows do that. Some don't. Some just don't have time. Some just don't do it for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think cast read throughs are always a great idea. It
Hmm.
just gives everyone a chance to meet before you get down to it,
Yeah.
and it's a nice thing. And everyone was coming up and saying hello and introducing themselves, because you always feel kind of weird because you're the new person, so you walk
Hmm.
in, sitting there, and you don't know anybody, and everyone's walking up and introducing themselves, and they're fantastic. And on set, asking you, so where are you from? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
great. It's a great show for that, and that makes as an actor, it makes a huge difference in terms of your experience. And I'm just so much happier when a set runs like that than when you're like the new guy and you're sort
Yeah.
of sitting by yourself, like at the separated lunch table. No, that was a great show. I had a blast on NCIS. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent. No, I mean, you're right. I think it's translates to any job. I think is when they're welcoming and they make you feel at home like that. But I guess it relaxes you more than because you are, like you said, there's a tension there when you're going on. You're just for a day or 2 days maybe,
yeah,
and that's it. I mean, I'm actually in. I'll plug myself here. Sorry. I have actually been cast as a jailer in a new Robin Hood TV show, which is coming out
Oh,
next
yeah?
year. Yeah, and there's some fine actors in that coming up as well, and
yeah,
obviously I have to interact with the sheriff and things. And I'm starting to go to acting. It's something I always wanted to do when I was younger, and I stopped when I was about 18 to pursue a sensible career, according to my parents. Yeah, sorry, I'm not knocking acting because it's something I love, but that's how you get
Yeah.
steered, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
yeah, because in truth it's a volatile career when.
sure.
But yeah, so I'm coming back to that now. Yeah, and I'm doing that next year. So obviously, I'm quite apprehensive because I know I'm only needed pretty much for one night,
Yeah.
and it's going to be. But I know I've been talking to all these guys and I made friends with them, so it makes a difference that I'll know them
Yeah.
when I go there.
Yeah.
Better than me just walking, walking straight in and just sitting there, twiddling
Yeah.
my thumbs, thinking, "Oh God."
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference when people are welcoming, and or at least you have a sense that you know the people, and
Yeah.
again, some shows are better for it than others. I've been very lucky. I've only ever stepped on a few shows where the cast were kind of less than inviting. I think it's rare, and I
Yeah.
think the longer the show goes, when it becomes a well-oiled machine, like I've never done a supernatural. Apparently, I'm the only actor in Vancouver or in Canada who has never done a supernatural. And they're in season 400 now.
Yeah,
And so
it's about that.
they're literally cycling through actors a second and third time. Like they're reusing people because they've now run out, and yet I still haven't done an episode, and I'm bitter about this. And but from what I hear, like that is one of the most fun shows to be on. The set apparently is just fantastic, and the boys are crazy, and they're always playing practical jokes, and but it gets to that point where they're that many seasons in, and either the cast is super happy to still be there and be employed and be a part of something great, or they're like, oh God, I just want the show to be done. But apparently they're just having a ton of fun, and it makes it, and they're very inviting, and it seems like that would be a really fun show to work on. So.
Excellent. So there you go. If anyone's listening, Kai wants to be on it. Get him on.
It'll happen because they'll be going another 20 years, so who knows?
Oh God, yeah. I don't think that show's showing no signs of dying down. I don't think. And it's such a fun show as well. To be fair.
Yeah.
Cool. I've got some questions for a couple of people as well for you now.
Oh, cool.
This first one is an out of the ball one, but I promised him I'd do it. It's from my 9-year-old son Ethan.
Okay.
And it's, if you weren't an actor, where would you be? What would you be? If you.
Ooh, yeah. Well, because it's all I've ever known, that's a little tricky.
It is, since you were 6 when you went into it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be like a cop, and I've always wanted to play a cop on TV. No one will give me a badge and a gun, unfortunately. But like I have friends that are police officers, and I've gone on ride-alongs and things like that, and that's sort of something that's always interested me. Just fighting crime and doing my part and de-escalating situations. I think I'd be pretty good at that. Either that, or I love sort of fixing things. I years ago I helped my dad renovate his house, and so we're framing it and we're doing a little bit of everything, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And I always like fixing things, and around my house in LA, I'm always repairing things and fixing things, and so my mind for some reason sort of works that way. I like to get into take things apart, fix them. So I don't know. Yeah.
Tough one, that, isn't it?
Yeah. But police officer, all around handyman.
See, you should become handy-manny.
Yeah. Run my own handyman business. Yeah.
Excellent. Laura Marie Howard, she's a young actress over in the UK. She's just starting out. She's just been in a British film called Pandorica, which was released this year. And she would like to know what kind of advice you'd give to an up-and-coming actor or actresses just starting out on the journey. This
I get asked on like Facebook and Twitter, I think more than anything else. It's people knowing or wanting to know how to break in or how to start or what to do. And like I said earlier, like when I started out, things just worked so differently than they do now. You really did have to work your way up. Now, even to join the union here in BC, you have to take a set etiquette course. So you have to take a whole class just to know how to behave on set.
Right.
And I remember when UBCP was coming around to the set of the commission trying to get us to join them, because there was a different union before they started. And we were kind of like, are they going to last? Like, what's with this new union? Should we join? Should we not? And they were practically begging people to join the union back then. God. And now, you got to pay a lot of money. You got to, have X amount of credits before they'll take you on. So I'm a fan of learning by doing and by being on set. When I was younger and starting out as an extra and then getting a few speaking roles here and there, you're gaining experience because you're constantly watching what's going on set, and you're learning and absorbing, learning how to act, how not to act on set, things like that. So everything's different now, and I know it's extremely hard to break into the business now. It's hard to get an agent, and it's like two different battles. It's hard enough to get an agent. You need an agent to get the work, but you need to work to get an agent. Yeah. So it's kind of like this
vicious circle.
Exactly. But the best advice I can give people is to just keep at it. I think the best way to be seen by casting directors and by agents and people like that is continually, do theater, get yourself in workshops, do student films and independent films, because a lot of times those can gain traction, and especially in festivals and things like that. Yeah, it just gains you if you do enough of them, if you're sort of out there enough, especially in a in a smaller city or someplace where, the business is a little more, people pop up more often than not.
Yeah.
It's just about being seen, and it's about, them seeing you. And I think that's probably the best way, because, you can send in photos and resumes to agencies and stuff and try and get an agent, but it's, half the time they don't look, they throw it right in the trash, or, they don't take submissions, period. So the best way, I think, is just keep at it. It's a matter of like theater, workshops, do independent films, get yourself seen, do good work, just keep plugging at it. I've seen a lot of friends of mine come up from, and who are doing extremely well now because they were go-getters. They were just constantly trying to work, And again, I would say to anyone, it's also about doing it for the right reasons. I think a lot of people want to be actors because they want fame and they want money. Yeah. And if those are the reasons you're getting into acting, then that's probably not a good thing. I mean, you have to like the craft, you have to like what you do, you have to understand, why you're getting into it. Yeah. Unfortunately, with like reality TV and like Kardashian mentality these days, people just sort of want to be, famous. And one of the sort of sad and depressing things is like, and not just myself and my fellow actors, we're actually losing out on roles to these quote unquote like YouTube stars and and Vine stars, which is insane. So again, a lot of the studios and networks are just lazy these days. They bypass someone that's been doing this for a long time with a solid resume for someone who has no experience at all on set, but just because they have a popular YouTube show, they've got that built-in audience, so they hire them because it's almost like a guaranteed success. Yeah, they don't want to take the chance. They want a guaranteed return on on their investment. So, just it's one of those businesses that it really does pay off to be aggressive and to be a go-getter and to really if it's what you want to do to just just continually try and do good work, because it oftentimes leads to better things. So.
Cheers, thanks. Excellent advice there. Great.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head as well. Reality TV show, I can't abide them because every time I do, it's another one pops up. I mean, in the thing I'm doing now, for example, I talk to a lot of actors like you, and I'm thinking, there's a hell of a lot of talent out there. Why can't I see that on television? Why am I watching 50 people singing on the third show on the same night, doing the same thing? It's my personal opinion.
I'm not a fan of it. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a fan of it. I should tell you my reality TV. I've now fought with 2 different reality TV shows.
Really?
I've never publicly told the stories, but I can tell you one of them if you want to hear it.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, as long as you don't mind it going out.
And maybe I shouldn't mention what show it is, but and keep in mind, these shows are not real. These shows are not real. You have the producers and the directors and the people there, because they avoid paying writers and having writers by saying it's reality TV. But that's not to say that the producers and the people can't give suggestions and advice. And so they do multiple takes of stuff. This is not reality TV.
Oh, yeah.
They'll say, oh, yeah, do that again, but maybe you're upset. Like, think about how you would feel if this happened. Yeah. And so years ago, a buddy of mine and I were out. We went to like Bob's Big Boy or someplace to get a late night burger. It's like 12 o'clock at night, and we just wanted a meal after a long day of being out. And I think it was like St. Patty's Day or something. We'd been out partying, and so we go in, and we're sitting down at this booth that's sort of by the door, and we're sitting there and we're waiting to order, and then all of a sudden, this cameraman goes flying by me and stops to film this guy storming out and going out the door. Right. And then the kid comes back in and they go and sit back down and they do it a second time. And then we're sitting there and he comes by and does it a third time. Right. And after the third time, I stopped the cameraman. I was like, hey, man, I'm like, are you seeing us when you go by? Like, we don't want to be seen. We don't want to be a part of this nonsense. Like, we don't want to be seen. And he goes, no, I'm not seeing you. I'm focused on the talent. okay, all right. And so they did it about 2 more times, right? And I finally, when the server came over, I was like, you know what? I'm like, can we sit somewhere else? Like, I don't want to be, we're being subjected to this nonsense. We don't want to be a part of it. Can we sit somewhere else? And he's like, oh yeah, of course. And he moves us to the back of the restaurant. We're way out of the way.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, like, we're good. Like, we're just going to order and hang out. And a few minutes later, this young blonde woman comes flying up, and she's real young and peppy, and she claims to be the producer of the show, and she's all full of like piss and vinegar, and she comes storming up, and she goes, "I'm sorry, is there a problem?" And I was like, "Well, no." She's like, "Oh, because I was told that you had caused a problem regarding us filming." I go, "Okay, well now there's a problem." And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Listen," I go, "this isn't reality TV. You're doing multiple takes of this. This isn't reality TV, and you're subjecting people to this nonsense." I'm like, if you're going to do multiple takes of something, I go, then behave like a normal production.
Yep.
Hire background people, rent the restaurant out, so that you don't subject people who are just coming in for a meal to this bullshit. And I got really pissed off and said, this is ridiculous. You did like 8 takes of this. I go, how is this reality TV? I go, we're actors. We don't want to be seen on your show. Yeah. We just came in for a bite to eat. I mean, like, rent the restaurant out. There isn't even a sign up on the door that says, if you come into the premises, you're gonna, you could be videotaped. Isn't that illegal? Well, no, it's because they skirt so many things, right? And that's the other issue I have. So we had our little back and forth, and then she goes, "Well, you weren't being seen," and she goes, "Like the cameraman told you, we were focused on the talent." And I was like, "Oh, the talent, yes." And, I won't mention the show, and I won't mention who it was, but basically, I'm like, "Oh, just because you're this, the child of someone who's famous, now all of a sudden you're the talent." It was one of those, and we had this whole big back and forth. And, God. She goes, "Well, don't worry, you won't be seen," and she storms off. I'm like, "Great." And so then the manager comes over to apologize. Says, "I'm sorry about all this. Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Oh, everything's fine." I'm like, "Everything's great." I go, "That nice young lady who just came over is a producer of the show, and she wanted to just come over and apologize for the inconvenience and say that the meal is going to be on them." And so then we ate and tipped our server, and then we left. Stuck this show with the bill.
Awesome. Sweet revenge, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But you're right. I mean, that's a brilliant story. You've knocked me now. But yeah, again, there's a show over here I won't mention, but our friends or people we know have been on it, and again, it was one where people phone in and it gets to the end and everything like that. And I can't say it's for all of them, but I know this one, they turned around, they said they knew they were actually handpicked by producers to come on an audition, and they got told what round and things like that. So that's as far as I'll skirt into it. But yeah, I think everybody knows it's not real, and it's getting boring. It got tedious years ago, and I've talked to writers, I've talked to obviously actors like yourselves, writers, directors who are just sitting there, and there's so much, there's so many ideas, and there's so much raw passion out there that could just really come on, and fill the TV screens, and people would be overwhelmed with the entertainment from watching dramas and action, things proper television, proper films, not just some wannabes who just come in and then really sicken everybody by suddenly earning millions and millions just for what?
Well, it's changing, thank God, because like back in the heyday of reality TV, we all took a hit. Myself, all of my actor friends, we weren't working. All the writers and directors that I knew, they weren't working. Yeah. There was a good 2 to 3 years where we took like a huge hit because it was when reality TV was like in its real big heyday. And there's still a couple big reality shows around, but it's definitely tapering off. And I think that people got a little tired and bored of it. And I'm just thankful that there's so much new content and like good 1-hour dramas, really good shows. And whether it's HBO, because they do fantastic shows, or whether it's new, things like Netflix, these new
Netflix, Amazon, things like that, they're all bringing loads on.
And fantastic quality shows.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's put us all back in work, and there's plenty of it now because there's just so many good quality 1-hour dramas. So very, very thankful for that.
You're right. I mean, you've got loads of it's Amazon Prime and Netflix. I mean, I spoke to Catherine Dyer last week, who was on Stranger Things, and that's a show which, again, Netflix. It's just come out of nowhere. And I mean, there's like I said, there's so many of them, so many different ones. You've got Amazon's. What's that one? The Man in High Castle as well. Things that you wouldn't normally, I don't think, get the mainstream are now being put on these streaming channels, and they are phenomenally good. They really are.
Yeah, Netflix does incredibly great shows, good quality hour, dramas. So it's made a comeback, and thankful for that. It's good quality TV.
It is, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next question is actually from Rory Anderson, who I believe you may know.
Rory.
It's a totally different style of question. He would like me to ask you about your love of Victorinox and Swiss Army knife collection.
Yes. Rory and I share a passion for Swiss Army knives.
Okay.
Yes.
How many do you have?
Let me see. I have to do a tally because I've got some in Vancouver, I've got some in LA. Basically you have all the basic ones.
Yep.
And I treat all of them as like daily use ones, except for two. The only two that I don't, that I lock away and I don't, have on me. I will always have a Swiss Army knife on me. And, I'm like naked if I don't have one. And I'm upset because last time I flew, it was an early morning flight, and I was not feeling well, and I completely forgot to check my Swiss Army knife in my big bag, and so I lost another one.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I've got to replace one now. But I have the only two that I don't use on a daily basis are I got a limited edition Comic-Con one years ago.
Nice.
At a suite when they actually had the company there. So that was nice because I had a chance to meet some of the Victorinox people.
Cool.
And so I have a cool Comic-Con Swiss Army knife one, which doesn't get used. And then I have a really rare one called the Scientist, which is a discontinued model. And it was my very first one. It was given to me when I was about 7. So that was my first Swiss Army knife. And I used to use it, but now it just stays locked away. And I actually bent the corkscrew on it. And I sent it back to the company. This is why they're such an amazing company. I sent it back to them to say, can you fix it for me? And it's a rare model. And not only did they fix it for no charge, they sharpened the tools, they cleaned the knife, they oiled it up, they polished the skins on it. So like all the scratches that were on the handle, this thing came back looking brand spanking new.
Wow.
And no charge. They just they believe in their products and they do quality work, and they sent it back to me. So yeah, I mean, I pretty much have my bases covered. I think I have almost one of every model, but I have some here and some there, so the collection's scattered at the moment.
Fair enough. I have one. It was left to me by my dad. He actually lost him 7 years ago today, to be honest. But yeah, he's all right, thanks. He left me it's just a bog standard one, one. But I love it to bits. It's great. It's got everything on you need. That's what they're there.
They're handy, and I think it's rare that I don't use it on a daily basis. Like if I have it on me, which I usually do, it's I use it on a daily basis. It's a fantastic tool.
Yep.
Plus my love of MacGyver,
Yeah. Regular little MacGyver sitting there. Well, he's been on there anyway, so.
Yeah. Hope I can do the new one.
They're making a new one?
Yeah.
Are they? Oh, I've not heard of that one. Oh, that'll be good.
I'm bummed they didn't hire me to play young MacGyver.
Oh yeah, perfect fit. Send him in pictures of all your Swiss Army knives. Excellent. Okay, I've got a question from Carissa now. Is if there could be one role or one film or one show that you'd love to be on, what would it be and why? Or who would it be? What character would it be?
Again, I want to be a cop. No one will give me a badge and a gun.
Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. People don't trust me with a badge and a gun. I don't know. I'm at the age where I'm now auditioning for a ton of cop roles.
Uh-huh.
And like I just went out last week for this movie, and I auditioned for like the sort of young sheriff guy, and then they call me back in for a different character. I'm like, nah, I want to be the sheriff. So it's just something that I haven't done. You know, I mean, at this point, it's trying to find roles that are unique and interesting, and or something that you haven't done.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, I kind of made a career of playing, you know, angry, like chip on the shoulder young men, and you know, and it worked out well. But
Yeah.
you know, that's an easy choice to sort of make and to go to, and so it's nice to just do things that are different. And so I've never played a cop. I'm starting to play, you know, different roles. Like I played a dad last year
Yeah.
for the first time, so that was cool. And then in like See No Evil 2, you know, I got to wear my glasses and play kind of like just a nice guy. And it's rare that I get to play just genuine, really nice guys that people are rooting for.
Yeah.
And so that was nice. So that's what interests me right now, is just hitting the stuff that I haven't already. Again, like we talked about earlier, working with good people on good projects. You know, whether it's film or TV film or TV, it doesn't matter to me. I like both. I'd like to jump back on a series because it's nice, regular, steady work, and you know, you get a chance to bond with people, and you know it's going to last for a little while, and you can sort of relax and settle down with a good, you know, with a bunch of people and have a good time. So that's just sort of where I'm at right now, just working with good people on good projects.
All right, cool. Fair enough answer.
Yeah.
So I'll keep watching out now, see if you're actually going to get to be a cop anytime.
Oh, one day soon. One day soon.
Yeah, I'll sit and I'll watch and I'll just sit. You know, he's done it.
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of auditions for them, but maybe I'll just grow a mustache out or something. Maybe they're just looking for the mustache.
Get a magnum mustache and you'll be fine.
That'll do it.
Okay, one of my penultimate questions is now: what have you got anything on the horizon? Are we going to see you on our screens anytime soon with any projects that you've got going that you can talk about, obviously?
Yeah, a couple things coming out. Just don't know when. Some of them are being polished up and finished up. I did a few smaller independent films earlier in the year, so those should be coming out. You know, unfortunately, those always take a while to kind of get edit and put together. I'm very active on my social media feeds, so like when I do have something coming out or when I book a job, I'm always updating people on that. So I'll always be informed.
Cool. So my last kind of question is thrown out again to you. Is there anything that you'd like to say to your fans and the listeners before we sign out?
I'm just thankful that people engage and write to me and want to ask me questions. It's awesome. I love social media. Social media has become like a great way to keep in touch with people, but also to engage with people. Like back in the day of, you know, writing letters and all that stuff, that's sort of fallen by the wayside, and it's so much easier and it's instant to be able to like talk to fans online right away, and it's just nice. It's nice to hear you know, the feedback, and it's curious too. Like I think I get more comments on Facebook and Twitter about Goosebumps than any other show I've ever done, which is wild. But I mean, it's great. It's just it's a great way to keep in touch with people and to meet people and to, you know, that's the neat thing about social media, and so I'm thankful. I just, you know, I'm glad that people, you know, watch what I do, and sort of there's been a handful of really great fans that have been with me for a really long time, and you know that it means a lot. It's awesome. It kind of gets you excited to, you know, that your work is, you know, people are supporting you, you know. So always very thankful for fans and for people tuning in.
Well, thank you very much, Kai. That was brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it as always. Thank you for anyone who sent in any questions. And I hope you all enjoyed listening to that. So this has been Chris Gordon for hellblazer.biz, saying goodbye.